Everybody has them, and everybody wants to be number one. Whether it's playing checkers with your grandparents as a child, your first baseball or softball game, or maybe even your first high school football game, you wanted to be number one, the winner. And there will be a lot of firsts today as we welcome you to the brand new IMSA VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. And there's no better place to host it than Daytona International Speedway, the world's center of racing. The first race of this series will enter the names of the first two class winners into the record book. And Daytona International Speedway, what a place to get it done. 12 turns, just over 3.5 miles. Lots of great passing opportunities. Turn 1, both horseshoes, the International or the West. Good out-braking spots, even turn 6 as you get ready to come back on the Super Speedway. And then the Le Mans chicane. Get the pass done there and then hold on to it through Speedway 3 and 4 all the way to the line. You could be the first winner in the two different classes racing here in the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. Hello, everyone. Brian Hill along with Jeremy Shaw. And Jeremy, we're going to watch history be made here today, this brand new series, but the cars and even some of the drivers very familiar.
Yeah, and two classes of cars here. We've got the LMP3 prototypes at the front of the field, 9 of them. We've got 15 GSX cars as well, better known as GS. They run it in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series. They'll also be running next weekend. The LMP3 cars, well, they were previously running in the Prototype Challenge Series, which was longer distance races. So now with this new two-class format and 2 races per weekend, a lot of excitement coming into this series and a really good variety of cars as well. Well,
I think it was a great creation by the series to kind of look at this and said we can save teams some money by eliminating pit stops, going to a sprint race format. We can give bronze and silver drivers more time in the car since it's a one-driver format, and we can introduce them to multi-class racing by taking these LMP3 cars, mixing them with the GT4-based machinery that you see in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. So I think really a great formula for the teams, the drivers, and the fans that are on hand. And the fans are here big time.
There's a lot of fans here this week. It's really cool. I mean, we've got the Raw test going on for next week's Rolex 24. That's the biggest race of the season for the IMSA cars at the beginning of the season. But there's a lot of fans here. There's a lot of campers here as well. The Boy and Girl Scouts are all here in force here at Daytona International Speedway.
Talk about a brand new series. That means we've got a grid. Drivers, some of them we recognize, some that we don't, Jeremy.
Yeah, and on the pole position here, his first ever time in the LMP3 car is Bijoy Garg, who's been racing in open wheel cars on the road to Indy for the last several seasons. This is his first ever sports car start. He had a bit of a tough initiation yesterday, a big crash at the exit of the Le Mans chicane. The Junior 3 racing team repaired that car, and he repaid them this morning on the last lap of qualifying. Bijoy Garg took the pole position in LMP3.
So two different classes. Pole sitter in the GSX category, no stranger to this racetrack, but new to IMSA racing.
Yeah, indeed, he'd never even been to an IMSA race before this weekend. He's from West Palm Beach. That's Billy Griffin in the number 14 car for Core Motorsports. That's a Ford Mustang GT4. Really good variety of cars in that GSX field. We've got Fords, Aston Martins, Porsches, Mercedes, BMWs, and a Chevrolet Camaro as well. So really good variety in there, and all seem to be very closely matched.
Well, and you look through the rest of the field, Dan Goldberg, familiar name to Prototype Challenge Racing. Courtney Crone aboard the 99. If you are a hardcore race fan, you'll remember the Red Dragon, Bob Stallings, the Gainsco team. You'll see the Red Dragon on board that 99. Courtney Crone, winner of the 2023 IMSA Diverse Driver Development Program. So she's got a scholarship opportunity here, and look for big things from that young lady.
Yeah, wonderful opportunity for her. And Courtney, she cut her teeth. She's from Southern California. She cut her teeth on short track racing in midgets and what have you in the early stages of her career. She's been racing in a Prototype Challenge for the last couple of years, so plenty of experience in these LMP3 cars, and she will start today's race in that Red Dragon, car number 99, in the 3rd position.
Well, you talk about experience, and I think that could be the key here. It is cloudy, it's cool, it means the racetrack is cool, and those Michelin tires are cool as well.
They are, and there's a threat of rain this afternoon as well. Hopefully it'll stay dry for this race, but a few sprinkles, we believe, just before the start. See the clouds building there off here to the west of Daytona International Speedway. We're getting here lined up, ready for the start of this 45-minute race.
45 minutes, no pit stop scheduled anyway. If you have to come to the pits, that's not a good day for you. And the field is together. That means our pole sitter in GSX is starting on the right side alongside an LMP3 category car. And here's the problem. We thought we might see this. I think we're going to see penalties for the start. Cars 3 abreast as they came across the line. You must maintain and guard the pole sitter around.
Yeah, it was contact, I think, between him and Dan Goldberg. They came down into the braking area at turn 1. Cold tires that you were just talking about, it does take a couple of laps to get these tires up to temperature. We spoke, did we not, to Bijoy Garg just before the start of this, about an hour or so ago, and we asked him, how long do you think it's going to take to get these Michelin tires fully up to temperature? He said a couple of laps. Well, he didn't even get through the first corner before that car was going backwards. It is Goldberg then who leads this race. Lance Willsey, a good start up in the second place ahead of Courtney Crone in third.
That spin certainly helped Lance Willsey. He picks up a position, moves forward, Garg back underway. I don't think there was any damage to those cars. It'll be interesting to see. The start is under review. You must remain in your columns. Don't look at the first 2 rows. Look about 6 rows back. You'll see the Mercedes side by side. That's 3 cars side by side. That is not maintaining your road. Now down into turn 1, Garg locks up that left front, and around he goes, and really a good evasive maneuver there by Dan Goldberg. Brilliant evasive
mover, and if we look here on the GSX cars, that bronze and white car, that is Tim Probert, who was fastest yesterday in practice. He had some traffic in qualifying, didn't get his best lap together. He pulled out there way too soon. And I think Tim Probert, even the fact he's massively experienced in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series, where they had the same starting rules, he should know better than that, so he'll be kicking himself, and I'm pretty sure there'll be a penalty for that number 65 car.
Well, let me go back to something I said at the very beginning of the show. First, it's the first race of the season. You know that everybody's adrenaline is pumping, and I think Tim Probert just got caught out a little bit there as Ureski, or the Aston Martin, around the high side of the Mercedes. You can see how evenly matched these GT4 cars are. 44 holding on to the outside. Can he make it stick? No, Ureski back, but waiting to see. Also, the incident down there at the start is under review. I think the officials are going to find no harm, no foul there. I think we saw our pole sitter with that problem. Garg lights that left side tire up, and that's what causes him to go around. And as I said, Dan Goldberg with a really good job missing that spinning car.
Yeah, it was absolutely unassisted there. Bijoy just locked up the rear brakes on that number 3 car, and around it went, and a brilliant effort there by Dan Goldberg to avoid that contact. Went to the outside, cost him a couple of positions initially, but he's made that up in short order, and back up now into the lead of this race. That's car number 73. Dan Goldberg, he's run with the Florida-based team Performance Tech Motorsports in these cars for the last couple of years, switched across to JDC Motorsports for this season. So see Courtney Crone looking to the inside of Lance Willsey, leaving her braking too late going into the chicane.
Yeah, she looked down to the inside, and I was thinking it was going to be an great out-braking maneuver. She just could not get the car slowed down. That kept Willsey from being able to turn in. He had to take the escape road. He's not going to be pleased with that.
No, he's not. He's not going to be at all happy about that. And punt number 65 does have a penalty, false start for that number 65 car, as we surmise. Here's another look at that run on the inside line there. Courtney Crone, to her credit there, she realized she carried too much speed to the corner, so goes straight, and she'll be I'm sure she'll be waving, sorry, Lance, sorry, that was my fault.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I was going to say the exact same thing. She makes the move to the inside, tries to make it, and then realizes, hang on a second, I'm not going to get this done. She made a mistake, but she didn't compound it by turning her hands and trying to enter in there, which could have created a spin and then could have collected Lance Willsey as well. So I know Lance won't be happy about it, but he has continued on with no damage to his car, so that's important. But for Tim Probert, the damage is done because now he's having to serve that drive-through penalty for the false start. And this is what we were talking about at the start again. You must remain in your column until the line. And for Probert, he gets a great start. The problem is he needs to be behind Uretsky, and he's just not. He's almost cleared him by the time they get to the line.
Absolutely he has, and that's a no-no. Uh-oh, there's Sebastian Carrazzo goes around in that Kelly Moss, the Allied Auto Group Porsche Cayman is spinning around in the grass there, and there's no grip at all on that grass, but he has got that car back underway again. He was running in the second position in the class under pressure from the pole sitter Billy Griffin. It's Todd Coleman that leads the way. Let's have another look. He's side by side, isn't he? Ooh, that swapped ends quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, that was
bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the inside, but I don't know how he got there. I don't know if they're coming off the corner, top of the screen.
Yeah, okay.
Contact.
So wheel-to-wheel contact between those cars. They just sort of hooked the cambers. These cars run quite a bit of negative camber on the back wheels of these cars, and I think they just kind of made a bit of contact. He just sort of spun that car around. Just really an unfortunate incident between those two. Here, though, is Lance Willsey making up that ground, having been taken out there really at the Le Mans chicane by Courtney Crone. So she was able to continue, but Lance lost a couple of positions, made up one of those there in turn one.
Well, that incident in the Le Mans chicane got the attention of the officials. The incident involving the 99 and the 30 under review, so they'll take a look there and see if it's deserving of a penalty for Courtney Crone. The officials always really on top of it, making sure that the racing is fair. There is going to be contact on the racetrack. You're going to fight hard, and occasionally you may have a little bump here and there. They just want to make sure that it's not unfair, and right now they have looked at it and decided that Courtney Crone needs to pay the price for removing Lance Willsey from that position. Incident responsibility with the 30. Courtney Crone in the 99 Red Dragon will receive a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think for her, I mean, the move in a couple of laps' time, that might have been okay, but at early stage, just the second lap of the race, these Michelin tires really not yet fully up to optimal working temperatures and pressures. Therefore, a little bit less grip than she would have had a lap or two further into the stint. And she just got a bit greedy there. Unfortunately, she cost Lance Willsey quite a bit of time, and as a result of that is why that penalty has been assessed on number 99. So she's going to have to come in, and that'll cost her a lot of time. She'll fall back well behind all of the LMP3 cars and probably most of the GSXs as well. Meanwhile, Bijoy Garg, having had that spin at the first corner, has got back underway again. He's passed all the GSX cars, but still now about 20 seconds or more than that behind the race leader Dan Goldberg in car number 73.
Race number one of VP Sports Car Challenge from Daytona. The very first VP Racing Sports Car Challenge underway. Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you. Action already. Dan Goldberg leads overall, and in the LMP3 category, Billy Griffin leads in GSX. And we saw that incident between Todd Coleman aboard the 69 Aston Martin just a few moments ago, along with the Porsche of Sebastian Carrazzo. You may be wondering, well, why haven't the officials looked at that? Well, it's very simple. Jeremy, you and I sat in the driver's briefing and listened to Todd Snyder, who's the race director, explain to the drivers. A lot of times, if there's an incident on the racetrack and the drivers want some action on it, but there's not, it may very well be that the officials don't have a good look at it. They have the look that we had from our television cameras. Hard to assign blame there, so I think the right call is no call, and it seems like that's going to be the situation with the 99, or the 69, I should say, and the 27 of Carrazzo right now.
Yeah, and as you say, inconclusive evidence, I think, would be the bottom line there in that instant leading up to the kink there at turn 4. But I think it was just kind of one of those things that happened. They were side by side, absolutely side by side they were, and it's just really unfortunate. The rear wheels, the rubber to rubber contact, and that sort of instant attraction, if you like, and then the cars get separated, and Sebastian Carrazzo lost control. So really disappointing for him, but he will be, he lost some ground, certainly. Oh, he's actually brought that car into the pits now.
Well, and the officials are going to look at it. There is a note on the bottom of the timing screen that the 2769 incident is under review, but if they don't have conclusive video evidence, they won't make the call. Coleman not affected in that little skirmish with Carrazzo. He still runs second. Billy Griffin in the lead, started from the pole, dropped back, and then back into the lead. And I'm impressed with Dan Goldberg. You pointed it out, Jeremy. Goldberg with a new team and a new car this year. He was aboard the Ligier for the last couple of years in IMSA Prototype Challenge, now in the Duquesne chassis, and spoke to him about that, and he said, I don't feel a lot of difference in the car per se and how it handles, but the cockpit confines seem to be much smaller in the Duquesne. And he was also talking about the power steering that I found very interesting.
Yeah.
Hydraulic system aboard the Ligier and electronic power steering aboard the Duquesne. And he said it's much easier on his hands, a lot less feedback through the wheel with that electric power steering.
Yeah, that's right. And driving the Ligier last year for Dan Goldberg here during the Rolex 24, at the end of the race, his wrists were really struggling, and he went to the doctor saying, I got really bad pain in my wrist. And he said, yeah, that's carpal tunnel syndrome, caused by effectively gripping that steering wheel, probably with too much force during the course of that 24-hour race. And he struggled with that pain in his wrist for several months last season. So and he kept on complaining to his race engineer, look, surely there's something we can do to lessen that feedback through the steering. And there really wasn't. But he just finds that steering system in this Duquesne chassis a lot more hospitable, let's say, towards his body.
Here's what I've found about arguing with a race engineer. It's kind of like arguing with a race official. It seems to not ever do any good from the driver's standpoint, does it?
No, ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. But finally, by the way, Courtney Crenn has served now with 6 laps in the books and about 12 minutes gone in this race. She has just served her drive-through penalty. So she has come into the field. She will drop to the back of the field in LMP3. She drops out of 4th position. She had been overtaken by Mirko Schultes in caliber 99 as a result of that incident that she had earlier with Lance Willsey. But here's this super battle here for second and third and fourth positions effectively in the GS class. So Billy Griffin, the pole sitter, fell back at the start in number 14 Ford Mustang, but has worked his way to the front and pulled away a little bit from Billy Griffin, from Todd Coleman, and then Vin Barletta in number 96 are being passed around the outside into turn 1 by Moise Uretsky in that brightly coloured Aston Martin.
But we saw Uretsky make this move before, and he couldn't hold on to it. This time he made it stick. Now, this is the other thing that's great about VP SportsCar Challenge, and that is you'll recognize the name of Vin Barletta because he races in Michelin Pilot Challenge, and this series gives him the opportunity to have more track time, more door-to-door, wheel-to-wheel racing than he might get on a Michelin Pilot Challenge weekend. The great thing here, throughout the season, he'll be able to run in both VP Racing and Michelin Pilot on the weekend, gathering that much more experience. The other thing that it does, it puts the onus on the driver, on Vin Barletta, to make the setup calls and work with his engineer on an MPC weekend, a Michelin Pilot Challenge weekend. He has a co-driver that he can lean on. Here he's got to do it on its own, and that will make him a better driver in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about experience in motor racing. The more experience to have, the more experience from which you can draw, basically the faster you're going to get. So the more track time you can get on a particular race weekend, or in this particular case, getting ready for next week and the first round of the Michelin Pilot Challenge for 2023, then you're going to benefit from that. And this super battle here between one of the older spec BMWs is the Turner Motorsport car, that yellow and blue machine, and the third place in this field as well, in that group as well. That's also an older spec BMW M4, and the newer spec. You see the grille is completely different on that car that is running in the middle, that meat in that sandwich.
The rear wings are different as well, so a different aerodynamic signature. Obviously, they're running pretty close to the same lap time. They're running side by side, but a great story there in the 88 with Wilmot behind the wheel right now.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's cool stories all the way up and down this field. That number 88 car, it's running under the Split Decision Motorsports team. They're a small team based out of Tennessee, and they're here on a mission this weekend. They've been basically club racing for years and years and years, and they had big plans about 9 years ago, I think it was, and one of a really good friend, two really good friends of this team were killed in a road crash, which was absolutely tragic. And the team has been racing in club racing. They bought this car. This BMW actually came from Europe. They're running it here for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these stories where these friends race together forever, and one of the guys that was on the, quote, team, Rob Farley, was supposed to come to the Rolex 24. The buddies came to the Rolex 24 for years together. And Rob was supposed to come that weekend, but he was prepping a car for a customer, so he stayed back home, and he and that customer were testing that car and were tragically killed while testing it in a very benign way. But he was killed, and the rest of the team promised that they would get Rob on track on a Rolex 24 type weekend. And lo and behold, Rob is on track, because Rob's name is down at the bottom of the rear window on that number 88. They struggled mightily in practice with the balance on that car. I was talking to Patrick Wilmot this morning, and he said something just isn't right. The corner weights are right, meaning that it's the proper weight on each front tire and each rear tire, but it is imbalanced in the corner. Right corners are different than left-hand corners. The car is diabolical. It seems to have come alive in the race. Yeah,
they were going to they just struggled with that car. He was slower than this morning in qualifying than he was yesterday in practice when he was struggling with the car as well. So he told us this morning they made big changes to this car coming into this race, kind of nothing ventured, nothing gained, and clearly it's running a lot more competitively in this race situation for Patrick Wilmot. So a good run for him in that number 88 car, running in the 6th position at the moment, but with a very closely matched group there. Moise Uretsky in that multicolored Aston Martin, who's running in the 2nd position, is only a second or so up the road. So a podium very much on for this half a dozen or so cars battling for that 3rd position in the class, 2nd position in the class, in fact.
Yeah, I'm sure
Moise Uretsky has just got past Todd Coleman for 2nd place.
Good battle here, and this is what we expected to see from this class. All bronze and silver drivers, so their experience and skill levels very much the same. That makes for good close racing. It's what we're seeing. Great run, as we said, for Wilmot, moving up, and I'm sure a smile on everybody's face down at Split Decision right now. If they could finish on the podium, what a victory that would be, even though they might be a couple of steps short of the first step on the podium. Just finishing this race will be one thing. Finishing on the podium will be like a win or a championship for this group, especially with the memory of Rob Farley. Multi-class racing, here we go.
Yeah, that's right. There's number 77 car. Oops.
And that's what happens, right? I mean, some of these drivers, not real experienced, walks, sees the prototype, lets it go, but he slides way up. And for Frank Depew, he looks at the hole that was left and says, thank you very much. And for Walks, I'm sure he had no even concept that another car could get there. He's not used to this type racing, and this is what you get to learn.
I'm not sure whether I agree with you. I think he might have.
You think he knew he was there? I don't think he did.
He just didn't want him to come past as well, so he tried to kind of tighten up the line. This battle here for 2nd position, or 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Look at Wilmot.
And 6th is absolutely superb. Around the outside, that's Rob Walker in the number 25 car for the Autotechnic Motorsport team in the red, white, and black car, as the race leader, Dan Goldberg, puts a lap now on these GSX leaders.
And for Dan Goldberg, a lot of experience. And look at Wilmot. He's like, I don't want you slipping in between the two. He slides back up inside Goldberg. And for Goldberg, he's got massive experience in LMP3 machinery, but multi-class racing is new to him, and he's doing the right thing. 8 seconds in hand. Don't force it. Don't stick it up inside one of these GT cars that doesn't know you're there and risk throwing that lead away. So good patience. And once again, Todd Snyder talked about that in the driver's briefing, he said, for a lot of you guys that don't have that kind of experience, you need some patience here. Don't make brave out braking maneuvers when you can get the drive off the corner if you're in an LMP3 car versus a GT4-based machine. Wilmot now putting the pressure on the 96 of Vin Barletta. BMW versus BMW. That is the F82 and a problem for Lance Wilsey.
Yeah, Lance Wilsey, he just moved up to third position. He'd got past Mirko Schultes in number 18 car last time around. I think that's, is that turn 6? Yeah, he's looped it around there. As Lance Wilsey, so he'd done the hard bit, he'd got past and up into third position in that car number 30 for Sean Creech Motorsports, but it's a fabulously liveried car. It really does look sharp, doesn't it? That Ligier, that's one of the 6 Ligiers against the 3 Duquesne chassis in this field, and Lance has got underway. He's had an eventful race. Of course, he had that incident early on into the Le Mans chicane with Courtney Crone, but he's come back from that, got himself up into third position. Now he's got to do all that hard work again.
Well, and Lance Wilsey, another guy who's going to have a busy week, as you said, from the Roar to the Rolex 24. He'll run the Rolex 24 in his Sean Creech Motorsport entry. And he's done it before. This time, Joao Barbosa, Nico Pino, and Danny Sufi, new to IMSA WeatherTech competition, and so they've got a good lineup there. He's working hard this weekend. 2 races, 45 minutes today, 45 minutes tomorrow, and then the Rolex 24 in just a week's time as prototypes working through GSX traffic. And Bijoy Garg, our pole sitter, up to 5th now, and for a young guy who's out of Formula car racing, there's a kind of a different mindset. And I asked him this morning, why this? Why the prototype stuff? Is that going to help you with your Formula car racing? And Billy Glavin, team owner, said he'll pass more cars this weekend than he'll probably pass an entire year of Formula car racing because of all of the GSX cars he has to get around. It will make him a better driver. It will make him realize how you need to manage a race a little bit better, and those are lessons that he can take back to Formula car racing, even though it may be a little more cut and thrust. Yeah, absolutely right. And you know, this car, the number 3 car for Junior 3 Racing, generally speaking, it runs that pretty much all white livery with the blue and the black stripes on. It was like that yesterday. That's what it looked like yesterday. But a massive amount of damage on that left rear corner where Joy lost control of the car of the exit at Le Mans chicane. Hit hard with the left rear, destroyed that car yesterday. And they worked late last night. They were thrown out of the garage, I think, at 11 o'clock last night, and had to come in this morning and finished off the repair job as we see this battle. Oh, there's Vin Barletta goes around. Just gotten around Coleman. He just got up into that third position in the class, Vin, but he got a little bit greedy in turn one, trying to carry a little bit too much speed. It was a great move. The Aston just didn't seem to have the legs down the straightaway. Maybe not a good drive off of the Le Mans chicane last time for Coleman, but I was watching Vin and I was like, what a great move. Right up until the time it wasn't. He just didn't get enough speed off on the outside. But look at what this has done. Coleman's now 3rd, Wilmot up to 4th, and take a look at how it all transpired down into 1. Cleared Coleman easily, and perhaps that was the problem. He got in there, carried more speed than he needed to. I saw the brake light come off, so got off the brake a little bit earlier. Watched the brake light come off. There's the brake light off, and as soon as he comes off the brake, he just hadn't slowed the car down enough. He comes off the brake, the car gets light, sits back up on its suspension, and around it goes. Yeah, around it goes, and he's left kicking himself. He's going to lose him a lot of ground. He's going to lose a lot of position. It was so close there. And now Todd Coleman running in 2nd place early on. Around the outside is looking Patrick Wilmot. Can he make that move stick? That's going to be a tall order. Whoa, he's braving it out around the outside. Coleman holds on, so it's been a really good run here for Patrick Wilmot. Here's a look now at number 3 car. That is Bijoy Garg, who's made up ground. He's pressuring Keith McGovern for what is now 4th position overall in this race. For Bijoy Garg, has made up a lot of ground from that early spin, and it's the liver of the Irish flag ahead of him for Keith McGovern. He's got Irish heritage, but lives in Fargo, North Dakota. And also on the top of that car, on the roof of the car, is this family tartan from Ireland as well.
really cool livery. He sees Gard down the inside, lets him go. He knows Bejoy Gard is a lot faster, so heads up driving there for that car number 28, Keith McGovern, to allow Bejoy Gard to move through into the 4th position. Still been a really good first ever professional race for Keith McGovern in 4th place in car number 28.
Yeah, a lot of Porsche Club experience for McGovern, but I was impressed by that, Jeremy, and you nailed it. He saw Gard coming, and while at home you may be thinking, well, he should have. Well, yeah, but you've never sat in a prototype 3 car before. You wouldn't know how difficult it is to see. I know the crew was probably on the radio with him as well, but very, very good senses for McGovern to notice that car that was there and leave him room to get through. A businessman, a potato farmer, and I shouldn't say potato farmer, he runs a massive organization that grows potatoes, provides most of the frozen potatoes to a large hamburger chain that has gold arches on it and stuff like that. I won't name it, but a pilot, a hunter. So he's very, very sensitive to controlling an airplane, a car, all of that stuff, reads things well and doing a great job. Look at this battle here, though. I mean, Coleman in that bright green Aston Martin seems to be dropping back, Jeremy.
Well, yeah, and this time the boot was on the other foot. Yeah, this time around, it was the BMW, that red BMW was on the inside line going into the Le Mans chicane. Coleman in the Aston Martin, that very distinctive green-black car, was on the outside, and it's Tom Coleman who was starting with there, and Tom Coleman was on the outside, and on the inside of him was Rob Walker, and Rob had the better line, and right behind him is Keith McGovern. Again, he said, okay, guys, you go battle for yourselves. I'm going to stay out of this one.
Yeah, you can see him do a long lift as he gets there to the brake zone going, okay, who's going off, because I don't want a part of it.
But this is going to cost Keith McGovern quite a bit of time, and only a couple of seconds behind him is his brother-in-law. That's Scott Neal, also making his debut for the Kelly Moss with Riley Motorsports team this weekend in an LMP3 car. So those two massively, well, they are family. They're both married to sisters, and they're great friends. They've been doing this racing thing on the side now for years, mainly, as you say, club racing, but this is their first ever professional race, and both Keith McGovern and Scott Neal giving a very good account of themselves.
So who's buying dinner? and how expensive is dinner going to be for the brother-in-laws as they fight out there, McGovern and Neal?
It's so cool. I mean, the first practice session yesterday morning, they were separated by 0.04 of a second. In qualifying this morning, they were going back and forth on the charts. One was quicker on one lap, then the other one, then the other one. And finally, on the last lap, Keith took the position on the grid away from Scott Neal. And so now, Scott wants to get his own back, and he's only a second or so behind him. It's just tremendous stuff.
I think the budgets may be higher than they think they are, not because of crash damage, but just because of the bets that are going to get laid down between these two all season long. And McGovern, a very competitive guy, runs in the family. His son, Connor McGovern, tremendous football player, played for the Jets as center for the last couple of years, a free agent, so expect to see him perhaps with another team next year, but one of the top 10 NFL centers right now. And obviously, the young man ate a lot of potatoes when he was younger. He weighs like 300 pounds. I mean, it's muscle. Yeah. Both Keith and his son, big time into weightlifting. And it's one of the reasons Connor got so big is his dad was very much into powerlifting and studied it as a child. And that's one of the reasons he is as big as he is. Like I said, a very competitive family there, the McGoverns.
They really are, aren't they? And yes, and Keith now, he might be a few years older, obviously, but making his professional debut at this age, it's really cool. Here's Mirko Schultes in car number 18, the Mühlner Motorsports Duquesne chassis, running in a third position at the moment, but looming larger in his mirrors is Bejoy Gard, the pole sitter in car number 3. That's the Ligier chassis for Junior 3 Motorsport, and Gard is getting closer and closer now. We've still got 17 minutes remaining in this 45-minute race.
So I'm looking at lap times right now. Gard's last lap time of 46.81, of 47.8 for Schultes. And with time to go, what are you telling the youngster aboard the number 3? Yesterday, he pushed too hard, made kind of a rookie mistake, got too much curb there in the chicane in this right-hand apex right there, well off of the curb today. What are you telling him? He made that mistake early on. You just trying to calm him down, telling him there's plenty of time to go?
As a team owner, probably yes, but on the other hand, go for it. Yeah, you're about to take the third position. That's the good news, but the bad news is he's got a lot of ground to make up to catch the second place car, Brian Thien. I think he's got about 20 seconds behind him. Last time around, he was maybe a second or so quicker as he comes across the line there to complete this lap for Bijoy Garg. It's a 1 minute 45.0. The fastest lap of the race was a 1:45.1, so that actually might be, I think he has set the fastest lap of the race. Actually, that lap was a 1:45.8 for Bijoy Garg. He has set the fastest lap of the race at 1:45.0, which is only a tenth of a second quicker than Dan Goldberg. Brian Thienes runs in second position for the US Racetronics team in car number 77, and Bijoy Garg is almost 20 seconds behind Brian Thienes. Last time around, he was about a second and a half faster. Do the math, with only 15 minutes to go, he's unlikely to catch him, but Bijoy is a youngster. He's going to push it.
Keep your head down. Keep doing what you're doing. Lap after lap, you're set the fast lap. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. And perhaps it'll come back to you.
Indeed so. And here is that Brian Thienes from Southern California, Huntington Beach. He's got a lot of experience in all sorts of different cars over the years. He's done quite a bit of success in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series. He raced in the Pilot Challenge Series the last couple of years as well. And is running in an excellent second position here. That's Brian Thienes at car number 77.
Manufacturers also involved. We talked about the different manufacturers in the GSX category. A Ford Mustang up front in the hands of Billy Griffin. Another interesting Ford driver aboard the 98, Jeremy.
Indeed so. Jim Farley here, who's the CEO of the Ford Motor Company.
May know the Ford product line reasonably well.
I mean, a very accomplished vintage car racer. Got all sorts of really interesting cars, including a Ford GT40, yes, a proper one, and a Shelby Cobra as well, yes, a proper one. Also races a 2-liter Lola T298, which is a sort of late 70s Le Mans type car. So a lot of experience in all sorts of different types of cars, but driving this Ford Mustang built by the Multimatic organization. Of course, they build these cars, they run these cars, and he has no less than Scott Maxwell as his kind of driver, coach, and mentor this weekend. So Jim Farley's given a good account of himself. Struggled, yes, had some technical problems with that car, but his pace is getting better, and he's moved himself up into seventh position in the class, and closing up now on this battle ahead of him with the BMW of Francis Seldorf, another second-generation driver in car number 95, and also Todd Coleman, who's slipping back in that green and black Aston Martin car number 69.
I think Coleman must have some type of a problem. We watched him running up front and continuing to slip down the order now, as you said, really now beginning to get a lot of pressure. And for Farley, like we were saying, a lot of driving experience, but not a lot of wheel-to-wheel hard racing experience. And this is what he's after. I'm sure you can imagine the conversations with Larry Holt at Multimatic when Larry said, well, who do you think we should put in the 98 car? And Jim said, how about me?
Yeah.
And if you're Larry, what do you say? What a great idea.
Yes, sir, is what you say.
No, I think it's a great experience. And the thing that I like about it is you've got a CEO of a company that's heavily involved in racing who's experiencing their very own product, their very own mark out on the racetrack. It's one thing to sit in a boardroom and watch it. He's experiencing it. He knows what his customers are going through when they're looking for customers to get involved in the GT4 program, the GT3 program that will be coming down the pipe. There's nothing better than knowing your product line, and this is what Jim Farley is getting firsthand experience at doing right now. Good drive off the Le Mans chicane, perhaps a little bit of run on the BMW just in front. Coleman, I don't know, Jeremy, the car seems to operate decently in certain areas of the racetrack, but then kind of goes away in other areas, and it's one of those deals where I wonder if he's got some type of imbalance in it that is keeping him from getting the most out of that car right now.
And a little bit farther back down the field there is what has been the battle for the fifth position in class. Yes. Now they're going onto the banking here. That is Keith McGovern is still ahead of Scott Neal, I think, as they head around back towards the Le Mans chicane for the 19th time in this race.
Just check Jim Farley's lap time. Just about a half a second off of Wilmot, so not too bad for a guy in his first IMSA race. Talked about his performance. McGovern trying to hold on. He's got a lot of pressure and a good run off the Le Mans chicane that time by Neal. Is he going to get him?
Well, he's thinking so.
Look at this.
But yeah. Great stuff. I mean, these two are
a flashing. I love the flashing headlights.
Get out of my way.
Yeah.
He's caught up those last couple of laps of Scott Neal, and
and a little twitch there. The car a little unsettled for McGovern there into one, really taking that braking in deep, trying to make sure that Neal behind him couldn't get by, and it almost bit Keith McGovern. Good job of holding on to it, but beginning to feel the pressure. And you look at the length of these races, 35 minutes into it right now, 10 minutes to go. The tires are going to start going away, not only because they're becoming worn, but cool temperatures at the beginning. If you had your pressure set too high because of the cool temperatures, they could be overpressured right now. Perhaps that's some of the handling problems that we've seen. Farley now looking, putting pressure on the BMW front. Oh, it slides a little bit wide.
Yeah, but he's going to get a good run through.
Good run off, yeah. He was a little too hot at the entry, but I think right there in the middle, it was Seldorf who had to overslow his BMW.
Yeah, and I think Jim Farley now, he's just really getting into the groove now with this Mustang, that number 98 car. And he's looking really super smooth at this stage. He looks well under control there. And Francis Seldorf, the youngster there from Boston, Massachusetts, in that number 95 car, 21 years of age is Francis. This is his first ever professional race as well. He's done a fair bit of club racing over the years, but nothing at this level. And he's going to look in his mirrors and see Jim Farley getting closer and closer. This will be the battle for the 5th position in GSX.
A lot of pressure. Farley tried to set up to get the good run off. And for Seldorf, in that Turner Motorsports HR Springs BMW M4 GT4, that is the F82 version. There is a new G82 that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Trying to hold on, but Farley really, really keeping the pressure on. But for Dan Goldberg, the 73 out in front right now. No pressure at all. 12 seconds in hand. And I can tell you, Jeremy, some of my most challenging races, I didn't have a lot of them because I wasn't way out in front very often, but it's hard up there by yourself. You almost would rather have the pressure of another car than the pressure of an empty racetrack.
Yeah, because you know you're out in front. I mean, there's no one in front of you that's faster. You've been out front pretty much all the way through this race. But for Dan Goldberg, he's hugely experienced. He's already done the last couple of years in this sort of car. We see this battle between Seldorf and Farley coming across start-finish line. Farley's going to try on the outside line again into turn one. I don't think that's going to work.
But let's see how it sets up. Remember last time, Seldorf was slow in the middle. Farley got the run off.
And that is the overall race leader, Dan Goldberg, right behind them as well, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So Farley's going to see him coming and let him go down to the inside into the International Horseshoe. Smart move there from Jim Farley.
How can he use him? Can he use him?
Can he use him? Yeah, maybe...
No, I think he's going to get Seldorf before the king, but it may slow Seldorf up just a little bit. Nope. I think Farley, I mean, again, no experience running multi-class racing like this. And I think he'll go back and he'll look at that video from the outside and go, you know, if I had gone a little deeper into the corner and made Goldberg work a little bit harder, I would have stayed closer. Then perhaps I could have taken advantage. You want to let the prototype through, but you don't want to give up too much letting him through. You want to hold the advantage that you have and let him slip past and see if you can use him as a bit of a pick.
Yeah, and I think he was a little bit too conservative there, I think, Jim Farley. But look, you know, this is his first race in this car. And he'll learn from that because Scott Maxwell will be all over him at the driver debrief up when he gets out of the car at the end of the session. But in the meantime, there is Brian Thienes there in that second place car for US Racetronics, moving around the outside of both of those two, heading down towards the Le Mans chicane. And running in a pretty lonely second place for Brian Thienes in that car number 77. He's 10 seconds behind Dan Goldberg. That gap has come down a little bit over the last couple of laps. But interestingly, he's pulled away from Bejoy Garg. And last time he was a couple of seconds quicker. So maybe Bejoy had some problems getting around some slower GSX cars, cost him some time. But Brian Thienes is now consolidating his second position.
And Farley continuing to put the pressure closer this time, side by side as they come through the tri-oval, looking to the outside. Can he get it done on Seldorf? Wide, way wide, but it cuts back under. Will he get a run off the corner? That's what we saw a little bit earlier. Made that little mistake, but it really didn't hurt him very much. And Farley really hounding Seldorf right now. I think that Mustang is coming alive. The problem that they had yesterday, Jeremy, was with brakes. And from a driver's perspective, that's the last problem you ever want to have. And right now, Farley's being asked to drive that Mustang in deep on the brakes to see if he can take advantage of a little bit better braking, perhaps a little bit better tire left on that Ford Mustang.
Yeah, he's kept that car nice underneath. And again, almost side by side, they were across the start-finish line. But Seldorf making sure he has the inside line into the first turn. And that time, Jim finally realized he carried a little bit too much speed into the corner. But look at the exit. He's got that speed on the exit, but just not quite close enough to make that move on Francis Seldorf.
Yeah, it seems like Seldorf just overslows the car a little bit in the middle of turn one. That's what allows Farley to charge up. And again, Farley has lost ground to Seldorf. He'll have to make it back up, but only 4.5 minutes left to go. It's amazing what traffic does. I watched Dan Goldberg's lap times. We saw him working through traffic just a lap or two ago. It's an easy 2 to 4 seconds that traffic, depending on how much you catch and where you catch it. That's how much it can affect your lap time.
That's true. That is definitely true. But for Dan Goldberg here, no concerns whatsoever. He's well out in front. The gap over Brian Thienes last time around was 11.5 seconds. Last time lap time for Dan Goldberg at 1:47.4, so a couple of seconds away from his fastest lap. He's actually extended his lead over seconds, just 13 seconds as he crossed the line this time around. Joy Garg, meanwhile, in third position, is now back up to speed again. He lost a bit of ground a couple of laps ago, but is now closing again on Brian Thienes, but only by about a second or so a lap. With only 3.5 minutes remaining, he's not going to be close enough. Meanwhile, in GSX, the pulse of the Billy Griffin, a really good run for him in that core motorsports race for RP Ford Mustang GT4. Well out in front now. He's got a 9.5 second lead over Moise Uretsky in the second position.
And talking to Billy Griffin a little bit earlier today, very familiar with the Mustang in which he is sitting right now and piloting to that lead. It's the exact same car that he runs in another series. They just have to run a different tire on it. So he is very comfortable in the car that he has. It's a new environment as far as running with IMSA, but the car itself is very familiar, and I think that pays big dividends.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and as an experience and familiarity is absolutely key. Here's this battle for fifth position overall. I just got to love these two. Keith McGovern and Scott Neal, super characters. Keith McGovern is in that number 28 car, the orange, white, and green car, currently the colours of the Irish flag. He's just turned his fastest lap of the race, 1:46.85. Well, a really good lap there by Keith McGovern, and it's extended his lead just a little bit over his brother-in-law Scott Neal there, right behind him on the racetrack. It's a super battle. Absolutely enjoying this one.
Dan Goldberg continues to lead the very first VP Racing Sports Car Challenge from Daytona International Speedway. 2 different classes, LMP3 and GSX, multi-class racing in a sprint format. And you are witnessing the very first ever VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. Good battles throughout the 2 different classes, single driver format, sprint racing, and it has been a success so far, especially for our 2 leaders right now. We'll see if they can hold on. Just 2 laps to go, just a little over a minute and a half.
And look at the last time around. Again, quicker again for Keith McGovern. 146.551 for car number 28. He's got 1.2 seconds over the brother-in-law, Scott Neal, right behind him. And meanwhile, out front, just a minute to go now. So it'll be the white flag this time around for Dan Goldberg for JDC Motorsports in that Duquesne chassis, car number 73.
Well, Dan Goldberg has won in the Prototype Challenge category for one win in 2020, third in the 2021 championship. He has a NASA championship under his belt in a GT-based car, but winning the very first ever VP Racing Sports Car Challenge event will be huge if he could do it. Just over 3.5 miles to go as Goldberg across the line, white flag in hand for the starter. JDC Motorsports, that Duquesne, the number 73. Goldberg has learned a new team, a new engineer, a new chassis. Yeah. And I think he's learned it well, Jeremy.
Yeah, he has. And you know, he really gelled with this team right away. A lot of experience there. The two mechanics who work on this car for JDC Motorsports. So Jim Steppen's been around the sport a long, long time, and Will Paul. And John Walco is the race engineer. Again, massive experience. And a lot of stability in the team is a big factor as well.
Well, this fight for the 6th position is far from over. Farley in a very familiar place. Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford Motor Company, aboard the white Mustang looking to the outside, and this is where he needs to use Mirko Schultes in the prototype to his advantage. Farley right now just being, in my opinion, a little too congenial, letting those prototypes go, and it's cost him a little bit. You can see Seldorf not nearly as nice to Schultes and making him work a little bit harder. This is where Farley needs to get up on that rear wing of that LMP3 car and see if he can take advantage of getting Seldorf off the proper line.
Super stuff here. Really good battles all the way through this field, haven't we? This is a lot of entertainment in this 45-minute race.
Well, what I've seen is some really heady drives.
Yeah.
You know, I would rather see a driver be a little too cautious than over-exuberant, for sure. That's what brings out yellows and takes the racing away from us and the fans. And we have not seen that today. What we've seen is some great racing in the debut of this series. For Dan Goldberg goes down in the history books. He is the first winner in the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. His name will go down in the books. Race number 1, winner number 1 in the LMP3 category. And for Billy Griffin, he will do the same. The Florida native lives not too far away in his Ford Mustang, flashes across the line, and Griffin wins GSX at Daytona.
Yeah, what a race for the local. I mean, Dan Goldberg from Delray Beach in Florida, Billy Griffin from West Palm Beach. Both of them be absolutely thrilled to bits. I mean, they've both done exemplary jobs in today's 45 minutes race. Not the hint of a mistake, really, from either of them. Dan Goldberg had his wits about him at the very first corner to avoid the spinning car of the pole sitter Bejoy Guard. And since then, Dan Goldberg has just driven a really nice race at the front of the field. He's a former winner in the Prototype Lights Championship that preceded the LMP3 category about a decade ago, but he's clearly lost none of his pace nor his enthusiasm for the sport. And Dan Goldberg, he wants to see himself back in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship before the end of the season. For Billy Griffin, a former two-time champion of a class in the Trans Am Series, a really good debut in IMSA, a perfect performance for that Core Motorsports Mustang team.
And we'll do it all over again tomorrow at 2:15. And I'm looking forward to that excitement. We saw plenty of it today, Jeremy. And I look at Dan Goldberg. He takes the victory, and this is going to be special for him. He had a victory in Prototype Challenge, but this one is his and his alone. The sole driver of this Duquesne chassis for JDC Motorsports. Good runs, and I saw some heady drives, couple of mistakes. Courtney Crone made a small mistake. She paid a price for it, but it could have been a lot bigger. It was her experience and her heads-up driving that left the small mistake a small one. She'll come back from that. That's not a problem. For Bejoy Gork, same thing.
Yeah.
Pole sitter, he made the mistake yesterday and crashed. Team got the car back together. They got it running. He had a great run to a podium finish.
Yeah, finished in third position. It's actually only less than 4 seconds behind Brian Cena focused on that final lap. So a good couple of final laps there for Bijoy Garg. He'll be looking to repay that work done yesterday by the Junior 3 Motorsports team to repair that car after his crash. He has set the fastest lap of the race of Bijoy Garg. No points for that, but he will get to start at the front again tomorrow. So that was a really exciting race to begin this VP Sports Car Racing Challenge.
Well, and in GSX, Billy Griffin with his win, that's great. Uretsky, great run there. But you know what? The drive for me, the emotional drive for me in GSX is Patrick Wilmot with a car that they didn't think was going to handle at all in this race. They threw everything at it. That's what that team is known for, that split decision racing, right? It's a bunch of friends that work together, and they got that car on track, and they dug deep, not only for Patrick Wilmot, the driver, but for their friend Rob Farley that they lost a few years ago. They said, Rob, we will get you to Daytona, and they did. And they didn't only get him to Daytona, Jeremy, they got Rob on the podium. Yeah, they did, and just good team performances all the way around here. By the way, we focus on Jim Farley towards the end, having that battle with Francis Seldorf. He fell back on the last lap. I think Jim Farley maybe had a spin or something on the last lap because he fell back to 12th position in the class, and Todd Coleman ended up in the 5th position. He seemed to be struggling for the latter stages of the race, but a good run for Todd Coleman in car number 69. But as you say, I think it was a really good start to this championship, Brian Till. Absolutely. The formula works. And we talked about first. Well, yeah, we have first-time winners in this first running of the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge. But everybody who competed today's name is going to go in the record books because they were a part of something that I think is going to grow in the future. Fans around the racetrack watching it. Formula One driver Tommy Byrne was out there watching it. He just sent me a message as well. So all kinds of fans here. Exciting today. It's going to be exciting again tomorrow. We'll see you then at 2:15. So long, everyone.